You find that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
I'm gonna keep my big VA, keep my friends away.
To defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas. That's the Free American Hour. It's the Free American, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. That's the Free American Hour. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999. For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
By phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hang on here. That's right. Hang on here. Shit. What's going on there? That's right. Hang on here. What's going on there? That's right. Hang on here. All right. I think I've got it figured out. Not quite, but we will get this. My guest has not called in yet. We'll wait to see how he does. Meanwhile, let me bring you up to date on a few things here. I am in Big Springs, Texas, and I attended a city council meeting yesterday, and I went to met with the mayor. I talked with 2, 3, 4 city council members, and I went there to discuss a senior center that I've been going to and checking out. All right. Good morning, Cyanide, and no, you ain't using, somebody in the chat room using Free American 69, you ain't doing that with my, in my show. So, get the hell out. That's my, Jewish buddy there, number 2 fan of the show. Probably using anybody's name but his because they don't have the balls to stand up to it. Now, I also talked with the mayor, not just about the senior center. I talked, which I could get into now, by the way. That's kind of strange. A strange feeling. But I also talked to him about Jade Helm. And he says he has a whole packet of information on Jade Helm. And he's more than willing to let me have it. To let me to share with me what their plans, what they're going to do, because Big Spring is listed as an episode here. Morning there, Cyanide. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. How are things in Europe? You know, I explained to the mayor and the city council members that my show does go all over the world. And we also talked about Jade Helm. Evidently, I've had a Gordon Duff on here. And I'm sorry, I'm not allowing anybody that's so proud of their Jewish heritage to be on my chat room. Not going to do it. You can all just go to hell. I ain't doing this Hebrew coffee, my people. No, this is psyops, and I'm not allowing it to be on my chat room. Thank you anyway. You know, I have been in contact with and did help start the militias around the country, and I still feel that that's a good thing. We need to have people that are trained and understand how to use weapons and what's that's all about. But we do not need to use that, nor do we want to use that against our own soldiers. Now, I was there in the 60s when people were spitting on these soldiers and they were getting the stories about my lie and all that. It was not all right. Hang on a minute. I think I've got my guest up. Hello, Barry. Are you there?
I am so, Clayton. How are you doing? Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I had to run out for a few minutes and just get in the door.
That's all right. That's all right. I forgive you for scaring me.
Okay.
Now, I was just telling people I attended the city council meeting of Big Spring, Texas. Now, Big Spring is listed as an, I guess the Jade Helm was even invited by the city of Big Springs to hold their exercise here. Big Springs has a Vietnam Vets Memorial right down the road from me here. And I went there and I met with the mayor. I met with the city council members. And the mayor has told me he would share with me all the information they sent him about Jade Helm. And I've tried to tell people, now look, I'm all for the militias here. I'm all for this. I think we need that. And later on in the show, I'll share a video called Hellstorm about what happened when the Soviet Union, the Red Army, invaded Germany and started going into Germany, slaughtering and killing thousands of Germans, raping German women and all that. And I don't want anybody going out and trying to take on the troops here, because the troops that are taking part in Jade Helm are our children, our family, our citizens here. They are not doing this to hurt the American people. I don't believe that. That may be a long-term plan. It may be something that they're planning that they want to do, but it's not time to take up arms against our own troops. We have to talk to them. We have to let them know that we're all in this together, and talk to the troops to find out who's giving the orders, what their orders are, and if this is all good for the American people. And I intend to do that. I intend to talk to the people that are taking part in this. SEALs, Special Forces, FBI. I don't care. I don't care that we really... I shouldn't have any problem with the FBI because I don't do anything wrong, and I'm just honoring the oath that I took 50 years ago that all of the FBI have taken to defend this Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, there is a plot here, and this is one of the things that I'm looking forward to talking to you about. You know, we've got a war on terror, which I've told people is a war against anyone anywhere in the world that doesn't want to go along with one world government of the people, by the of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers.
Yeah.
And what you have done, and what you are doing, in you're setting up, you're building a fourplex apartments that people can live in, and their apartments will pay them. You're setting them up with solar. I would imagine you've got wind available, and I would love to know if any of these so-called magnetic generators that are advertised on the internet. Yeah, for $49, you can get the plans to build a magnetic generator. You can build the same generator that they used to Lindbergh used to fly across the ocean. You can $49. But if you don't actually go for that, I think it'll go down to $27. They just want to get a little bit of your money. They don't need all of it. And I believe that it's possible. I believe you can take a squirrel cage, put a steel ball in it, steel ball bearing in it, and put a permanent magnet on the other side of that squirrel cage, and that squirrel cage, that metal ball will roll along that squirrel cage forever. Yes, I believe, and all that would have to be is hooked up to some type of alternator or generator, and it would work. So I believe it's possible, but I don't believe that anybody out there is doing it. If they were doing it right and they had one of those, why don't they just sell it to the people? Why don't you, you know, if you got the plans for this, build two machines. Show me one of them, and or give me one of them, and I'll sell all you got. What about this? You obviously, you're studying the energy. Yes, solar works. Yes, wind works. We've got all these windmills down here in Texas, between Midland and Big Spring, Midland, Odessa, Big Spring area. We've got hundreds of these giant windmills. So obviously somebody's making money off of it. And my question is, why don't we just put a small windmill that doesn't cost $20,000, put a small windmill on our houses and generate enough electricity to run our telephones, to run our lights. We can put up LED lights, and I'm sure that's what you'll probably be using in your fourplexes. What about that?
Well, you know, Clayton, in the last 30 years, you know and I know that the power of magnets has increased phenomenally. We used to play with magnets when we were a kid. We'd take two magnets, we'd oppose them to each other, and we'd get a little bit of resistance. You take the neodymium magnets, the new generations. I just came up with a new generation of the neodymium magnets. They're continually adding alloys and taking alloys out of these permanent magnets that make them stronger. The new generation of neodymium magnets, Clayton, are literally so powerful that you can't get them any closer than about 8 inches to each other. before the resistance stops you from pushing them farther. If you turn them around and get them so that they're attracting to each other, you get those magnets a foot apart now, and they're slamming. It only makes sense, to a common person that if you have magnets with this much power in them, and they're permanent, they don't take an electric source to make the magnetic strength they have, it only makes sense to a common person that those magnets should be able to do work for you. And that's the whole theory of everybody that's working with magnetic power right now, is making the magnet do work. To me, it's a no-brainer, really, Clayton. If you have the magnet, and all our generators all through history have had magnets in them, but they've been inefficient. They're not an efficient generator. But if you change the strength of the magnet, you have to be able to make a more efficient generator. I've seen myself, Clayton, a demonstration of a generator, a simple magnetic generator, and I've watched this with my own eyes, and I witnessed it with my own eyes, and I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, where a gentleman has a generator set up at 16 poles opposed to 17 magnets. In other words, you've got an odd configuration. In other words, one magnet will never line up to the opposing pole. It's always offset slightly. You can take these two wheels and spin them with your fingers. He's got a cluster of 300 100-watt light bulbs, and when he spins the wheel, all 300 of those light bulbs light up. He's got a system now where he's got an impulse coil. There's two coils on the wheel that are actually driving the wheel. The only power source for the whole generator, and like I said, I witnessed this with my own eyes, is one 12-volt car battery. I watched him take a 10-horsepower electric motor, getting it full power, opposing the shaft on his generator. He's got a torque and a shaft on his generator. And I watched him set up a belt between these two opposing forces. You've got the 10-horsepower motor going one direction. You've got a generator going in the opposite direction. You have a belt and a clutch. I watched him drop that belt. We watched the garage completely fill with smoke, and the 10-horsepower motor came to a dead stop. That's how much torque is on the flywheel of a generator running off one 12-volt car battery. One regular car battery, which produces approximately 1.4 horsepower. If you break it down, 1.4 horsepower going through his wheels stopped a 10-horsepower motor at full RPM dead in its tracks. I witnessed that with my own eyes. Anybody believes that there isn't over-unity out there, Clayton, I believe you've got your head in the sand, that over-unity does exist, and that the fact that the powers to be will literally kill to keep this information back. They'll debunk it. They'll try and control the information coming out. But what we're seeing right now, Clayton, is a massive amount of people getting involved in free energy, because it is a reality. It is there, folks. It just needs to be exposed to the public. Period. And that's what I believe, Clayton. I've seen demonstrations of it. I mean, you've been online. You've seen some of them. There's just too much to it to say that it's all a hoax, that this stuff isn't a reality in our world. Getting back to what we're doing, Clayton, we're not into the wind power at all. I believe that solar really is one of the biggest answers to power generation on the planet. We're seeing incredible advancements in solar panels. Like I was saying yesterday, all our material is going to be coming out of China. You can buy right now, Clayton, out of China, a complete solar system for your house. You need to install it. That's the trick. I mean, you have to have a technician to install it. It has to be installed properly. But you can buy the whole system right now out of China for 5,000 Canadian dollars. This system will produce 4.3 kilowatts of electricity consistently, even on cloudy days. On cloudy days, you'll be producing about 2.5 kilowatts of electricity. On sunny days, you'll produce about 4.5 kilowatts of electricity. If you couple 3 of these systems in your house, you would literally, now get a load of this, Clayton. My son's been doing number crunching on this, and I've got another gentleman with me that's doing number crunching on this. Literally, if you set up 2 or 3 of these systems in a house, you'd be able to sell enough power back to the grid that you'd pay the house off in 12 years. We've done the number crunching on this, on these 4-plexes that Doug and me and my son are getting involved in here. They're going to produce 4 times as much energy as it takes to run the 4-plex. In other words, DC Hydro is going to be getting a lot of power back from the project when it's finished. We're getting our zoning change right now. We're not going to have a problem with that, as I explained yesterday. It's on residential, it's on commercial property, but it's bordering residential. There's an existing structure on the building. That building's coming down in September, and we'll be breaking ground next year for the project. So that's what I'm doing right now, Clayton. And I'm also, like I said yesterday, heading out to do mushrooms for a little while here. Gonna get away from your insanity for a couple weeks and recharge my batteries. Because it's getting insane.
Let me ask you something real quick here. The number that I have for you, your sound is a little muffled. Your voice is a little muffled on Blog Talk. Can I switch over and call you on your cell phone or landline or whatever that is and try that?
Maybe I'll try adjusting my microphone here just a wee bit to see if that helps. But I'm sounding muffled.
It sounds a little muffled, yes, sir.
Okay, how's that? Is that any better?
Yes, I think that's better. I can hear that better.
Okay.
We'll try
I
that.
just brought my microphone up just a second.
We'll try that.
Then.
You know, Barry, I told you that I write science fiction. Frankly, I don't think the American or the Canadians can handle the truth. To steal a line from Jack Nicholson, but I've decided what I started doing 50 years ago was writing science fiction. I'm going to continue with that because the fiction that I write is more believable than the real stuff and the true stuff. But I envisioned a future, an ideal future, and where everybody's home is generating all of the electricity they need that they can sell to their neighbors. Their homes and growing food in the backyard instead of grass. And even Beverly Hills down here and Hollywood is having a little bit of water problems, keeping those lawns green. And we've got all of these shopping malls here that could be used to grow food. Now, there are some people, there is a company called Bright Farms, they're operating in 6 or 7 states, and they are putting their gardens on the roof of the shopping mall, or the roof of their grocery stores. They're working with a grocery store chain to grow their own food right there on in the greenhouses on the roof of the grocery stores. So when you go into the grocery store and buy a tomato, it was just picked, and it's not GMOs. I think that is taking a step in the right direction. I think what you're doing is taking a step in the right direction. 4 families are working together to cover the cost of the solar. Makes it a little bit more affordable than each family having to spend $10,000 on it. Isn't that is that an accurate scenario?
Yeah, but like I was saying yesterday, Clayton, like, if you look at it, any person that's really looking at it over 2 or 3 or 4 years, we're seeing our power bills go right through the roof, and we know they're continuing to climb. I think this is a time when people really should be starting to look at this whole program. And, first, Clayton, as things become more popular, more than they're being bought, more are being installed, the prices will come down. What we're trying to do with this project is show the community that this is a feasible answer, that, that we don't need to dam another river, we don't need to build another nuclear power plant. In actuality, we should be dismantling every nuclear power plant on the planet over the next generation if we want to see a future for this planet, because with nuclear power, and I know, Clayton, we've laid down seeds of destruction that generations after generations are going to have to pay for the pursuit of power that we've never, ever needed. And I know that nuclear power was all a farce. It was just ever brought into society to produce weapons-grade plutonium.
That's right.
That, you know that, and a lot of people know that, okay? But we were duped as a society, except that this was the new power source, it's free, it's going to be awesome, it's no pollution, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, we look at what nuclear power has done for the planet in the last 65 years that it's been implemented on our Earth. Absolutely, absolutely. Who has given our generation the right to bring this much destruction to the planet when we don't need it? That the Earth provides all the energy that we need. I'm a true believer in that now, Clayton. We haven't even talked about the power that could be generated through tidal currents. 15 years ago, I went out fishing with a gentleman from BC Hydro, and we were sitting in a place called Some Sadie Inlet. And what this is a small entrance into a big inlet on the ocean. So, of course, when the tide goes in and out of this inlet, it rips through there, Clayton. And what you do is you anchor in this inlet, and we what we call power mooch for spring salmon. As they go into the inlet, they go through this small opening, and you sit there and you fish for them. And I'm sitting there talking to Herb, I'm saying, Herb, why don't we build great big paddle wheels on this tidal current that will work in both directions? So when the tide's going in, it works. When the tide goes out, imagine how much energy could be produced off that. And he looks at me and goes, that's a good idea. Well, guess what they're starting to play with now in British Columbia? Tidal generators. I mean, the Earth provides everything we need. We haven't even talked about static electricity. I don't know if you're aware of some of the gentlemen right now that are working on static electric motors in this world right now, but I honestly believe that all the energy that we need to provide this whole Earth is in the air around us, in static electricity. I mean, you look at the amount of electricity, Clayton, that is generated through a lightning bolt. Well, if we could harness and store the power off one lightning bolt, it would power the city of Los Angeles for 3 days. There's places in the world, Clayton, that get lightning strikes consistently, 24/7. You can almost write it by the clock that you're going to get lightning strikes in those areas of the planet. Well, if we were to build capacitor systems and store that energy, all our energy needs on this planet would be fulfilled. Same thing with solar. We look at the huge solar plant project that Google just built in California, $3.4 billion project, I believe, and they're producing out of that solar farm about the equivalent of a third of the electricity it would take to run the city of Los Angeles for an investment of $3.4 billion and no pollution and no side effects to the planet. I mean, this technology is out there, Clayton, and I think it's time that the human race say, enough of this crap about we need power, we need energy, we need oil, we need nuclear power, we need this, we need that. We don't. It's a charade. And what do we see from all this charade? Total destruction of our planet, buddy. We're seeing wildlife die off right now at unprecedented rate in human history. We're seeing things happen on our planet that we've never seen before, and we're magnifying, and it's really time to take a step against it, I think. Don't you? And we haven't even talked about hemp yet, Clayton. You're going to get into my favorite subject here in a minute.
Now, let's just go back for a moment. This whole arms race, this whole Cold War was built along the lines of the bankster plans. They fund both sides of every conflict. They create the conflicts and then they fund both sides. And we went through 50 years of a Cold War. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. The Russians weren't our enemy. So who's making all of the money off of these atomic bombs? And all of the atomic bombs are being created from the nuclear power plants. Those nuclear power plants, you suggested we should tear them down. I agree with that 100%. Actually, I think we should rebuild them, because if we used them and powered them with thorium, they couldn't build atomic bombs, but the nuclear power plants would run on thorium fuel.
Of course. That's why they never used thorium. It wasn't in the agenda, Clay. Go ahead.
The agenda, and of course they wrote that in stone. We got the Georgia Guidestone down here. They want to reduce the world's population to a manageable 500 million. I think it's a real plan.
That means 6.5 billion of us got to go, Clayton. Oh boy, where are we gonna go?
Yeah, listen. Can you let's try switching phones here. Let's try switching phones.
Okay.
Let me call you on the other number that I have for you here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to run and grab it. It's in my truck. Okay, Clayton, so I'll hang up and you can call me back in about a minute here.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
All right. We'll get Barry back on here in just a second. Okay. Let me get this mobile number up here, and I'll be calling him on that here.
Your call has been forwarded to TELUS Mobility Voice Messaging Center.
Give him a few more minutes to get in here. You know, the key here, folks, is working together. How can we work together? Let's make the plans. More of you need to go to these city council meetings. You know, they where I was viewed as a kook, as a black helicopter, as a conspiracy theory, all the things that they tried to do to demonize, to keep us from getting support, from keeping us from working together, for keeping us free. It's a trick we use, anti-Semitism. That's a trick we use. And this doesn't mean, again, I'm not getting on a rant here about the Jews. There are good Jews out there. There are people that are trying to do the right thing. And I don't care, frankly, who your grandmother slept with. I don't care what color you are, what race you were born into, or what religion you were born into. Good and evil is capable here. Are you there, Barry?
Well, Clayton, yeah, I'm back, and unfortunately, my cell phone is dead.
Oh well, that's all right. It's hearable. We can hear you. It could be a little bit better, but it's all right. It's all right.
Okay, well, I'll try and speak clearly, because actually I just got a brand new headset phone here, and I don't understand why most people have no problem hearing me. So
it could be my end here. I don't know. So it's all right. I can hear you.
Okay.
Everything is recording here. And one of the things that I do want to talk about here, over 50 years ago, maybe even closer to 100 years ago, hemp was our #1 cash crop in America. And even 200 years ago, George Washington said, sow it everywhere. And Canada, there are a lot of products coming out made of hemp. And we've either got to buy them from Red China or Canada right now. I mean, it's amazing to me that with the help of William Randolph Hearst and the media control, if you ever wonder why he got that castle up there on the California coast, it's because he helped to demonize hemp by calling it marijuana. And Henry Ford built cars out of hemp. You could hit it with a sledgehammer, it'd bounce off. And I just saw something about a 400-year-old bridge in Europe made out of hempcrete. A little stronger than concrete.
Yeah, and it looks like the day they built it. Like, come on, we know the hempcrete's an incredible product.
Amazing to me. Everything that's beneficial for us, for the people, everything that's beneficial for us, they want to take away or criminalize. I mean, I honestly believe they ought to, and what I wrote about 45 years ago, was abolishing all laws against victimless crimes and eliminating the whole criminal justice system, which is criminal in itself, because we've got more Americans in prison per population than Red China.
Highest percentage in the world by far, Clayton, by leaps and bounds. If people look at the charts, it'll really open your eyes to the American prison system, how corrupt it is. Well, it started, of course, when they privatized the systems, Clayton. You privatize any system like that, you're opening the door to corruption. What goes on, the whole thing's a charade. The judges are tied in with the guys that own the prison, that are tied in with the prosecutors, tied in with the lawyers. It's a charade. It's all being exposed now, Clayton. I don't know if you're aware of the National Liberty Alliance in America and what they're doing, but they have set up common law grand juries in every state of America in the last year, and there is tremendous challenges being made against the judicial system in the United States of America right now. One case I would like to bring to your listeners' attention that you'll like to hear about, Clayton, is one with a lady named Lydia Ridland. And she just had a ruling in, I'll get the link for you because this was kind of really inspiring, that, you know, in family courts in the United States of America, it is your constitutional right as an American citizen to have a jury trial. If that is not offered to you by the justice, and she or he makes decisions outright on your case involving family court in the United States of America, you can now go to court, challenge that, and have every decision made by that judge thrown out of court, abolished, nullified. I urge people that are listening right now to go to the National Liberty Alliance website and look at the latest developments going on inside the judicial system. These people are fighting this with tongue and cheek, Clayton. They are all in attack on the corruption in the judicial system. I say kudos to them. I urge your listeners to have a look at that, Clayton, and yourself. You'll find it very inspiring. So there is people that are fighting it, Clayton, fighting it very hardly. We know how corrupt the judicial system is in the United States of America. The fact is, if you go to court against the American government right now in court, your chances of winning that case, and I looked at these stats, is 7%, that the government wins 93% of the time. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure something out. Definitely screwed up in Denmark there, wouldn't you say, Clayton?
I would say that, and I've had the people on from this National Liberty Alliance .org, folks. That's .org, and the common law courts are the answer. And they say right here the difference between common law and the law practiced in our courts today, called statutory law, is simply as follows. Common law upholds the Constitution for the United States of America with its capstone Bill of Rights above all statutory law, whereas statutory law is held above the Constitution for the United States of America and its capstone Bill of Rights. Therefore, your rights are whatever our elected servants may choose it to be for you at the time. And this is what the National Liberty Alliance is endeavoring to change in our courts, and thereby bring all of our elected and appointed servants back under the chains of the Constitution, because right now you are under the chains of the Constitution, and this is the definition of tyranny. Our founding fathers knew that. They gave us this. They warned you about allowing titles of nobility, working here, the Bar Association, the British Accredited Registry. These lawyers are foreign agents, Barry. And what I proposed 45 years ago, where 46 states had abolished all the laws against victimless crimes, and they closed prisons down. They were just closing, and that was fiction at the time. But that needs to be done here, because under the common law, you gotta have a victim for there to be a crime. And I'm sorry, smoking a joint does not make me a criminal.
Exactly. Well, I say kudos to them, Clayton, because they are they're getting a lot of attention now. I listened into their meetings on Monday night, and I listened to the calls coming in across from the country there, and the people that are getting involved, the groups that are formed behind this group right now, really see an answer to challenging the court system. We have to expose this corruption in the court systems. Most American citizens aren't aware just how corrupt the system is. They know that it's definitely not right, but they have no idea how deep the roots go. And that's what the National Liberty Alliance is doing right now, is exposing those roots, so people can understand exactly what is being done to them when they go into a court of law. The books are stacked against you. The decision's already been made. There is no justice in American courts anymore, and that has to change. We change that, that's a fundamental building block to restoring the Constitution.
Now, what I've told people, the strategy of the enemy is, it's called divide and conquer. It's the oldest thing, and then that's why this whole thing about Republican and Democrat, conservative and liberal, that's what they're doing, dividing us, trying to pit one side against another.
Of course, a nation divided cannot stand against a true enemy, Clayton. Your enemy isn't your neighbor. Your enemy isn't the person down the street. He's the person in your government. And, of course, they'll do everything they can to keep us divided so we don't understand, we don't come together. I think that's the biggest challenge facing the human race right now, to see this enemy and identify it for what it is and come together against it. Because the forces of division are great. They've been doing this, they've been bringing this in for a long time. You know, they've been incrementally making changes in society so society doesn't recognize it for what it is, but it's brought us to the point we're at now.
Now,
you can't make changes fast. You know that. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, this whole New World Order thing, you know, if it was, I'm not exactly a fan of the UN, but if it was working for the people instead of being a communist-style organization, I'd be all for it. That'd be the people working together.
Yeah, I'll reserve thought on that. I believe that nations, we need diversity in the world, that we need countries to be countries, to be what they are. That I'll reserve thought on right now, Clayton. But I know that what we see right now is definitely pushing us at light speed towards that. You know, I mean, everything we see right now in society is pushing us towards a one world government. It would really be easy for them to bring in a one world currency, Clayton, by simply collapsing the dollar. I mean, what choice would people have if they brought it down and said to you that now this is the currency you have to use, and you're not going to be able to do commerce or any kind of business without it? That's a real possibility in our society right now.
Now, what's a real possibility? Repeat that. I got sidetracked.
Well, the fact that, you know, the financial situation, and this is something that I dwell on and I think about a lot, Clayton, is, you know, the financial situations in the world right now are so volatile that it would literally take just a pinprick to make the whole bubble explode. If they were to collapse the dollar, if the dollar collapses, of course, many other economies will collapse with it. It would create the ideal situation for the implementation of a one world currency. I mean, if you had no choice but to use this currency to continue with your commerce, it would set up a trap for a lot of people.
Do you see?
I'm hoping you're hearing me.
What you are doing is the right thing. Building the fourplexes, and if you can build a fourplex, you can certainly consult with people on. You can consult with individuals on. When you find out what works and where to get it, how to make it work, you share that knowledge with the American people, and we can turn whole blocks into self-sufficient neighborhoods. You know, Richard Kelly Hoskins said the foundation of every civilization is the self-sufficient family farm. Every civilization is built upon the self-sufficient family farm, and I've told people anytime communist or tyrannical government takes over, the first thing they go after is the farmers first, and then they go after the intelligentsia, anyone that's smart enough to know what they're doing, and third, they go after the veterans and law enforcement that are still on the same side. And what they're doing right now, in all of the news stories, Jade Helm, everything that they're doing, is designed to separate us from the police, from the soldiers, to make us fear one another. The cops are afraid that the militia's going to come get them, you know. That ain't what's happening. That ain't the truth here, and this is why I do this show, to educate people about that.
Exactly. Well, you alleviate fear through education, Clayton. And you know, and I know that the biggest weapon government uses against citizens is fear. I mean, look what just happened in Canada with the attack at our Parliament buildings last year. The whole society went, "Wow, there's terrorists in Canada." All of a sudden, our Kyle Harper brings in Bill C-51, just about a mirror image of your Patriot Act in the United States of America. It has now passed through Parliament with the assistance of the Liberal Party. Now, the Liberals and the Conservatives, of course, each other, and they will never work together. But all of a sudden, these two parties came together to support the most tyrannical bill ever put in front of Canadian Parliament in history. What is going on between the Conservatives and the Liberals? Of course, we know what's going on behind the scenes, that they're just puppets for the New World Order. Canada is just in the same boat right now as the United States of America. What you're seeing down there, we are seeing a mirror image happen in Canada. While your Operation Jade Helm is going on, we have a military operation now going in Canada called Maple Ridge. We are hearing reports of them moving massive amounts of military equipment into army bases just north of Edmonton. I was just talking to Philip McDonald, the gentleman living up in Medicine Hat. He's telling me about trains going by with military equipment. 3 weeks ago, Clayton, I was driving downtown Terrace, British Columbia. And you know what went by me? And I couldn't believe this. And my son was, or no, who was I with? I was with Adam. Excuse me, I forget who I was with. But anyways, about 3 weeks ago, I'm driving down Main Street Terrace. We have a highway that goes right through our town, and two semi-transports went through town, and on the back of these semi-transports, I swear, they had those coffins that we see pictures of in the United States of America. I looked at the back of the truck as they're going by. I only had a couple seconds to look at it as going by, but what I saw was stacked on the back of the truck, probably 10, 12 long, and about 4 high, tarped over, and they looked exactly like those coffins I've seen on all these videos in the States. And I just, my jaw dropped. I was, what the heck is that? It really kind of caught my attention. There is things going on inside of Canada right now that people aren't really aware of yet, but we're starting to become aware of, that are mirroring what's going on inside the United States of America. There's also military operations going in other countries coinciding with Jade Helm. That alone should raise red flags in people's minds, that we have these coincidental military operations going on in countries that are tied into this group of people that are involved, all going on at the same time. One other thing I brought up yesterday, and I was looking at it again this last night, and I was on with Chuck Ocelli from the Ocelli Effect last night, and did a couple hours with him. And one of the things that we really did hit in depth on was the fact that the U.S. Congress is going to try and ratify the UN Small Arms Agreement on the 27th of July. Clayton, that's 12 days into Operation Jade Helm. That alone should raise red flags in people's minds. If it comes to a point, you know and I know, the American government all of a sudden says, hey, we're going to ratify this agreement. You all have to turn in your guns. You know all hell's going to break loose. And I think that's what they're pushing towards. Like, they want to see the unrest, Clayton, because they want to be able to implement martial law. When martial law is brought into the United States of America, folks, the game is over. The executive orders written by Barack Obama in the last 5 years, 1,000 of them so far? When those executive orders are implemented under the banner of martial law, all your freedoms are gone. Any chance to fight back against this tyrannical government will be gone. And that's what they're pushing us for. And I try and tell people, I said, you know what? You know, they're pushing us towards this avenue. They're funneling us into this avenue. We have to be aware of that. We have to say, hey, you know, this is their plan. This is where they want us to go. We have to go in the opposite direction. You know what I'm saying, brother?
I think so. I think you're absolutely right, and I actually believe that we've probably been under martial law for a lot longer than we'd like to believe. I mean, do you get a warm, fuzzy feeling when you see a cop in your rear view mirror?
Always, of course.
These cities are the whole New World Order plan. You know, it's and that's why they set up this operation here almost 20 years ago, called the Wildlands Project. They tried to move the farmers and the ranchers out of the country and relocate them into cities. They don't want us to be self-sufficient. And you mentioned Germany. I've seen films from Germany, and every farmhouse in Germany is powered by solar, or a lot of them, at any rate. And so Germany is actually a little step ahead of us as being more self-sufficient, aren't they?
Well, they're miles ahead of us, Clayton. You know that Germany implemented their solar program in 2011. And right now, you can Google this on the internet, folks, that Germany is now producing almost half, just under half of their electrical requirements in the country, strictly through solar. Germany has stated by the year 2021, there will not be a functioning nuclear power plant in the country. They have taken 8 of them offline so far since the implementation of their solar program. I say to people, man, doesn't the sun shine over here? I mean, it's there. It's in black and white. It's undeniable that this technology can change the world instantly, like in a generation. We're talking complete change in everything we do to this planet. We have to sit right now and look ourselves in the mirror and go, wow, what kind of a legacy are we leaving right now for our children and our children's children? Can we say to ourselves right now, folks, that they're going to have the same opportunities, the abundance of life, the fresh air, the fresh water, the fresh food that we were lucky enough, Clayton, me, you, were able to experience early in our lives before all these changes came in our society? We are being funneled into an absolute state of destruction. We see the planet dying right now, Clayton, at unprecedented rates. I read reports the other day, buddy, that just shocked me on the honeybee populations on the planet. I mean, scientists of great notoriety are stating right now, Clayton, that if we do not stop the use of pesticides, there isn't going to be honeybees on this planet in 2 to 3 to maybe even 4 years. But in 4 years, they're calling for the mass extinction of the honeybee. Well, Einstein said, my friend, if the honeybees die, we die. And if they go, they're going to take us with them. That should be something that just shocks everybody right to the core. What are you doing for your children? We have to look at these issues. These aren't things that are going to go away, Clayton. So I didn't mean to get into a rant.
That's all right. That's all right.
Planet, buddy, and when I start talking about this planet and the insanity of what we've done to this planet in the last 100 years, people have to look at history. We have to look at this planet as being the most vibrant, healthy organism ever created in history of the universe, God's creation at its greatest. And what have we done to it in the last 100 years? What have we done to it in the last 50 years? We are being manipulated. We feel that we need this, we need that. We don't need that. We need a place for our children to be able to rest their heads in 50 years from now. If we keep going the way we are, we ain't got it. Period. Bottom line. Go ahead, please.
Even
begin to rant, but I get,
that's all right, because you're right about that. And even these oil companies, it's not just the gasoline. They have polluted the Gulf of Mexico. They have tried to destroy our food supply over in Japan, Fukushima. The nuclear leaks, the destruction of the nuclear plants over there, poisoned the Pacific. And I've got one guest that comes on my show on a regular basis that talks about building floating Liberty villages, floating self-sufficient homes, powering these craft, life yachts he calls them, with the tides, just as you talked about. And one of the things they want to do is clean up all of that plastic. They've got island-sized or almost continent-sized trash dumps filled with plastic floating out in the ocean. And his plan includes cleaning up the oceans. We really got the right ideas. We got the technology. Everything that my guest talked about you can farm the fish under the boat. You can put them in a cage and raise the fish right there in the ocean. for all your protein, everything that you need. And as the tide rises and lowers, or even just as the boat rocks, the rocking of the boat by the ocean will power your generators, power your batteries.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need the oil companies. We don't need the nuclear companies. We don't, and we damn sure don't need the atomic bombs.
Yeah, Clayton, that is my biggest peeve in history is, nuclear power, because we look at what's going on in the Pacific Ocean right now. I'm only one direction, about 40 nautical miles from the Pacific Ocean. And I am hearing reports from people now up and down the coast of Vancouver Island. I'm in touch with a gentleman named Dana Dunford, who has a site called the Nuclear Proctologist. I invite your listeners to look that up on the internet. Nuclear Proctologist. He is doing constant studies on marine life on the west coast of Vancouver Island. We are getting unbelievable. Well, just look at the reports coming up from California about the massive amount of sea lions that are starving to death. Well, why are they starving to death? Because the bottom of the food chain is dying. We look at the sardine tax from the last 2 years, Clayton. Last year, the sardine industry totally collapsed. This year, same thing. There is no numbers out there for sardines. Well, sardines produce about a half of what most sea life and mammals and birds eat on the Pacific North Coast, up and down the coast of the West Coast here. And they're disappearing. We're now hearing reports from fishermen that are pulling up halibut with red spots all over the bodies, with crabs that have holes right through their shells. I'm on the front line of this, Clayton. If people don't think that the Pacific Ocean is dying right now, they've got their head in the sand. I mean, what are we talking about? The death of the oceans? We're talking about death of the planet. I mean, what could be more disturbing to us as a generation? If any of these things I'm saying right now are true, which they are, because I follow this very, very closely, Clayton. If it's true, wouldn't that just shock you enough to get off the American Idol and stop watching hockey games at night and football and start really becoming active and getting involved and helping making change? I mean, to me, there isn't anything more important right now to do than to try and educate people that these are real issues that, are going to really bite us hard on the butt in the next couple of years. I'm scared that most society will be still completely complacent to what's going on around them, and they're not really going to be willing to make changes till it really starts to hit home on them. But those times are coming very, very shortly, Clayton. They are. We kind of have to nip this one in the bud real quick here.
All right, Russell.
So many issues to deal with.
Hold on just a minute, Barry. Top of the hour here.
Yeah.
I need to do a short 2-minute commercial for my Friday guest, Russell Pavalardo, and I'll warm the coffee up and be right back. Hang on.
I'll be right back too. I'm going to use the bathroom.
Hello, friends. This is RJ from the Mighty Phoenix. Friends, if you're a business owner
Hold on.
and need capital to sustain or accentuate your business, and if you've been in business for 2 years or more, and your credit scores are low as 500, I can help you. Credit scores don't pay back with money that you borrow. Credit scores are only weapons being used against you in the war on small business. You pay back money that you borrow with business monies earned. So if you have 6 recent bank statements, and your business is active, and as I said, you've been in business for over 2 years, I can get you money within 8 business days. Contact me at R as in Russell, J as in James, P as in Peter, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur, at yahoo.com. That's RJTPAPA at yahoo.com. And if you're not in business and you need to earn extra cash and you don't want to go out and work for someone who's going to take advantage of you, or you don't want to spend the money to gas and get paid minimum wage, you can work with me, not for me, and earn big commissions And all you need to do is place ads on the computer, on the internet, on Craigslist, on Backpage, on other sites, in the financial section. Only 15 minutes a day. Again, contact me at rjptapa@yahoo.com. Leave your cell phone number. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. And we'll discuss the issue. I can help you. Again, rjptapa@yahoo.com. Have a great day, folks.
This is 150-pound tuna.
All right. We're back. Barry Prince is my guest today. Can you hear me all right, Barry?
Yeah, I'm back here, Clinton.
Okay.
My teeth aren't swimming anymore, so I can function.
All right. Again, the answers are there. And what about these fourplexes that you're building? You say it's already a done deal, and I think promoting these or selling these is a real way to go to build up revenue, and to be able to offer answers to people. I mean, people are looking for answers, and there's a tremendous amount of research involved in trying to find all these sources and how to set them up. So I think you're really going in the right direction.
Well, absolutely, Clayton. If you don't think people are going to pay attention to something like this, I mean, come on, it's a no-brainer. You can literally, in places like Arizona, if you build one of these fourplexes in Arizona, you can literally, now I don't know what the government regulations are as far as buying back power, but BC Hydro will still buy back any excess power that you generate. They'll buy it back at the exact same price that they sell you the kilowatt hours for. We've looked into that, and that's confirmed. The only thing right now, before we make major announcements about this in the community, there's people in the community that are aware about it. The gentleman that's involved with me is very, very well known in the community, owns the property. And as I said, we're just waiting for the rezoning. And once that happens, then there's nothing that will stop us from making the announcements in the community. And when we do, I've already posted one link on my Facebook of a similar project and the dynamics of it. It runs through everything that's going to be done in these projects, to the heating, everything else that we're going to do, and some of the technologies we're exploring. And that's the only thing right now is we're just waiting for the zoning change. And when Doug gets that from the city, boom, we're going nuts on this. And you don't think the community is going to sit back when we start making announcements and we start putting articles in the paper of the potential of these units? You don't think other contractors are going to sit back and go, wow, wait a second, hold on. These guys are on something. I'm actually seeing solar panels going up in town here now, Clayton. There's 2 residences that have full solar panels on their roofs. And the one gentleman I talked to is about 88% self-sufficient now through the panels. And he bought his systems out of China. There's 5 or 6 companies now in China that are selling the systems. And like I said, you can buy the whole system that will generate in full sunlight about 4.8 kilowatts of electricity, which is enough to power your house. Your normal house requires 5 approximately on a normal regular basis. But the combination of the panels that are going to go into these these fourplexes will produce about 4 times the amount of energy that it takes to run the fourplex. So in other words, we're going to be producing we'll break down with some of the exact figures, about 18.7 kilowatts of electricity. So we have all that source electricity that sells back right into the grid, and they will buy it. BC Hydro might change that in the future. More and more, I feel what's going to happen when really people start getting onto this and prices get lower, and it makes sense to a lot more individuals in the community. We'll see a pushback from the government, where they'll go, oh, we don't want to buy the power anymore. Because, of course, it represents a threat to everything they want to do. They want a dam into the river up here, one of the most beautiful valleys in northern British Columbia. They want a dam to make another dam to make power. Well, we don't need it, folks. All we're trying to do is make you aware of the fact that we don't need it. Period. The world has to wake up to that, Clayton. And you know what? I think if the world really, really knew of all the potential of the planet to produce power, if we can get that knowledge out to people and start getting people to have a look at this and go on the internet and start surfing these sites, go on the internet and punch in free energy, go to the thousands and thousands and thousands of sites of people now working on free energy, go to the sites on solar energy, go look at the German solar program, study that. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And we're only talking about solar. I mean, boy, you want to start talking about hemp for a few minutes, Clayton. We talked about it a few minutes ago here, but I had the privilege of speaking at the 420 rally here in Terrace a couple weeks ago. And a lot of people in the audience were aware of exactly how much potential there is in growing industrial hemp. And I brought some of these facts to their attention. And a lot of people are there because they want to support being able to go out and smoke a joint on the street without getting busted by the cops. But to me, that's not what the whole movement's about. The whole movement to me is exposing people to the potential, number one, of industrial hemp and the absolutely unbelievable changes that can make to our planet in one generation if it was grown wide scale in mass production around the planet. You know, 1 acre of lumber. I'll just share this. You know this, of course, Clayton. You know all this, but I'll just share it with your listeners in case somebody out there hasn't heard this before. But you know, if you take an acre of lumber and harvest it for fiber, we'll use 2 tons as an example. If you were to get 2 tons of fiber off that acre of lumber that you just harvested, well, if you grew industrial hemp on the same acre of land, you would end up with approximately 4.5 to 5 tons of fiber off the exact space. And during the 50 years that it takes for that tree to grow back to become harvestable again, you will grow approximately 150 crops of fiber using industrial hemp as the base on that same acre of land. In other words, you're going to generate approximately 600 tons of fiber off the same piece of land that you just harvested these trees off to make 2 tons of fiber. And where is the sense in the logging industry? We can completely eliminate the logging industry by people becoming aware of the benefits of the fiber. Trees are lungs of our planet, Clayton. When you look at the deforestation of the rainforest right now for wood, it can all be stopped if people just really studied what can be done with the fiber. Through hempcrete, we can make the most incredible building material in the world. A building material that will last 700 years. A building material that doesn't release any kind of chemicals into your home, which all building materials now do. Everything in your home is constantly releasing a chemical into your air. A lot of people don't know that, Clayton. You use hempcrete in your house, there is no chemical. You don't have to cut down trees, folks, and yet it's a huge monopoly we see going on around the world. These are things that I really would like people to look at and kind of think about and go, wow, you know, we can stop cutting down trees. You mean that all those trees that are making oxygen for this planet, we can stop cutting them down? Yeah. And if we started all these empty fields where farmers are going broke right now, if we covered them with industrial hemp and started implementing it into our society, all of a sudden the farmers would be viable again. We see the farms falling apart in North America. It could all be reversed. Hemp is the most miraculous, God-given wonder ever put on this planet. You know that, and I know that. Everything we see in our world right now can be replaced for it. You know, Henry Ford, like you said, Clayton, was going to make an ethanol-based fuel off the hemp plant, and all automobiles were going to be powered by that. Well, you think about if that had gone through, what kind of a world would we be living in today instead of the cesspool we're living in, right? It's just absolute insanity. Everything about it is a no-brainer, folks. And I haven't even talked about the detoxification effects now they're studying in Japan about taking radiated soil and planting industrial hemp. And 2 years later, the radiation's gone. You can take the most toxic soil in the world, completely laced with oil, and put an industrial crop of hemp on it. 4 years later, that soil will be usable. If you grow a field of industrial hemp and do it for 2 years on a field, after the 3rd year, you grow a field of corn or a field of lettuce or anything on that field, and you will produce the best crops you've ever had in your life because of the fact that the root goes so deep into the soil. Aerates way to soil brings so many nutrients to the surface. Incredible what can be done with it, Clayton. You know that, and I know that. People have to wake up to it. We're trying to demand it back in society.
You have personal contact. You have had personal contact with somebody I had on my show well over 10 years ago. His website is Phoenix Tears. Phoenix.
Yeah, I talked to him 2 days ago, Clayton.
Beg pardon?
I talked to him 2 days ago.
Oh, great. I want to get him back on my show. I'll talk to you about that later. And he cured cancer, folks. The cancer is an industry. They create the chemicals. Monsanto, say thank you, Monsanto, for the Agent Orange, for the Roundup, for the pesticides that they spray on all of your food. And what's his name again?
Rick Simpson.
Rick Simpson, yes. I've had Rick on my show 15 years ago. Yeah, I think he's kind of hiding out in Kosovo right now. I guess Canada drove him away because he was curing cancer, folks. Now, I've been smoking marijuana for 50 years. I've still got my tonsils. I've still got my appendix, and I don't get sick. You know, I was kind of excited in Arizona when they passed medical marijuana, but then I found out I didn't qualify for medical marijuana because I was too healthy. I hadn't seen enough doctors. I didn't have a doctor's excuse to get a prescription. You got to bribe a doctor to be able to smoke your pot. To me, that's ridiculous. And that's why I think Colorado is probably the brightest light in our future right now.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to Rick a couple days ago, and he brought me up with snuff. He's talking to a lot of people over in Europe. He's actually in Zagreb right now, and I'm going to try and get him on. He said, I'm going out to do some harvesting in the bush here for a little while, Clayton, but I'm going to try and get him on the air here in a month, and I'll mention to him that you'd like to have him on the show and see if I can hook you up with him again. But he is laying low right now. Canada doesn't want him back. If he comes back to Canada, he's probably going to be arrested. He came in here a couple of years ago and did that tour of British Columbia with me, and I got to spend 3 weeks with Rick, and I'll tell you, it changed my life. You know, Rick was the one that really kind of inspired me to start looking at the medical aspects of the plant, and I'm a little late in life at looking at it. It was about 3 years ago I really started looking at it hard, and I'm kind of ashamed of myself that I didn't look at it earlier in life, but I'm trying to make up for lost time right now, and Rick is doing incredible things. He introduced me to some of the most incredible people in the movement right now, Clayton, and I see what's going on right now, and it's inspiring. Canada is really making movements forward, and so it should be. My only biggest qualm with the whole scam of government is they're going to try and control this just like they have alcohol, just like they've controlled everything else. We see Monsanto now genetically modifying the hemp plant. Of course, they'll modify it so they take out the CBDs and CDLs that are beneficial to us. We have to be aware of that and have to make sure that you have lots of regular heirloom seeds. And when the Monsanto seeds comes along, you got to get rid of it. Boy, I'll tell you, they got their fingers in everything, Clayton. You know that, and I know it.
Shades of paraquat, huh?
Yeah, exactly. They know it's beneficial to the human race.
In case you folks,
they're gonna. Go ahead.
In case you folks don't know what paraquat is, when I was getting started 20 years ago, they started spraying the marijuana plants with poison. So paraquat. So it's they don't want you to have the benefits of this. And my friend Jack Hara, who I supported, financed while he wrote Emperor Wears No Clothes, they finally got killed him with some kind of heart attack or stroke or something like that. They gave him a stroke. And he said hemp could save the world. If you were stranded, Clay, on a deserted island, and you were allowed to take one thing with you to survive, what should you take? His answer was a hemp seed. With the hemp seed, you can build your shelter. Out of hempcrete, you can make your clothes. Hell, our Constitution and our Bill of Rights was written on hemp paper. Our flag was made out of hemp. Our jeans, your blue jeans, were made from sails, which were made from hemp.
Yep, and then came along reefer madness. How they demonized it, Clayton, it's so obvious if you do a little bit of research into the history of the plant and how it was, like you said, such a big part of our society and how it was taken away. It's such a lie. And now, luckily enough, people are recognizing for what it is. I feel this wave is really, really starting to grow worldwide, and eventually it's just going to drown them all, Clayton. It will. They can't stop this. It's just how we're going to allow them to control it is my biggest concern.
Well, they aren't controlling me. They aren't controlling you. And you were doing the right thing. You went out and started your own radio station, didn't you? Internet station?
I was co-founder. Yes, I co-founded a radio station. I'm on there every week doing a show. And I'm in there quite a bit doing talking and stuff.
Yeah, you've got Rick and Annie on there and a few other things. How is that going?
Well, we've actually had quite a few new hosts come online that find they're young, intelligent people. A couple have come on that just are 20, 23, 24 years old and speak like they're 40 and 50. So, I was on, Clayton, I would tell you, I had an inspiring, really, really inspiring talk last night with a 21-year-old gentleman. His name is Josh Sigurdsson. He started Winnipeg. You guys might want to Google this. Winnipeg Alternative Media. And I'll tell you, I listened to his 21-year-old talk last night, Clayton, and I was just absolutely knocked off my chair with his level of intelligence and understanding of world events. You might want to send him a message, Clayton. His name is Josh. If you get him on your show, buddy, you just love the level of intelligence of a 21-year-old. It's inspiring to see a man that age fully involved, fully committed, and so passionate about what he sees. The Winnipeg Alternative Media is making huge strides, and it really inspired me to hear this young man talk. Anytime I get a chance to talk to young people, Clayton, and try and open them up to what's going on, I do, because they're the ones that could really, really make change in their society if they could get their eyes out of their iPods and get away from World of Warcraft and all the other distractions that society puts in front of them. And this is what I try and point out to them, that everything they're doing is a distraction to keep their minds away from what's really going on in our world. And it was inspiring last night to hear this man talk. So maybe I want to send him a message, Clayton. There'll be a great guest for one of your shows. I know your little sister would just love listening to this gentleman. So follow it up if you like, buddy.
Well,
I also, Tim Mullen, the leader of the Libertarian Party here in Canada. I've done a couple talks with him on radio. The Libertarian Party in Canada is true libertarian. If you go to the Libertarian Party of Canada's website, Clayton, and look at their mandate, look exactly what they're saying about what this party would do if ever given the opportunity to take power in Canada, I think you'd agree with about 90% of what they're saying. So something else you might want to look at. And Tim Mullen, the leader of the party, Clayton, the reason that I got behind this party, I'm not going to talk about this too long because I get rambling, but the reason I got behind this is because of the notoriety of the people that are getting involved in the party. They're all young, intelligent Canadians that have had positions in society of great notoriety. They're all under 35 years of age, very, very intelligent individuals that are getting involved in this party strictly because they're concerned about what they see in government. The reason I say that, Clayton, because one of the platforms of the party is the pay structure for an MP in Parliament. Libertarian MPs will pay themselves no more than $48,000 Canadian for a year of service to the Canadian people. Our current MPs are getting a salary of approximately $150,000 per year to represent us in Ottawa. At 8 years of service, our MPs then receive a pension of $120,000 a year for the rest of their lives on this planet. This, to us, is a big carrot for people to get involved in politics. You're not getting involved in politics because you want to do good for your fellow man. You're getting in there because of the meal ticket. You know you can tell these people anything you want, lie to them left, right, and center to get elected. Do your 8 years, and then who cares? People in the Libertarian Party are getting involved in the party, Clayton, because they are genuinely concerned about Canadian affairs, about Bill C-51, about the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement. The party is growing in leaps and bounds because of the honesty I see in the individual. The leader, I'm only going to talk about it for one more minute, but one of the main things that really drew me to this party is Tim Mullen. The gentleman was 27 years old. At 24, became the fire chief of a big city in northern British Columbia, or northern Alberta. He has just resigned from that position to go full bore into the Libertarian Party because the financial support now the party is getting because of the growth in the party is exponential. Canadians are looking at this going, hey, everything about this makes common sense. Everything we see in government now, there is no common sense. So I just ask people to go have a look at something. What you want to look at today yourself, Clayton? I'll let you talk now.
Well, the candidate of the Libertarian Party of the United States, the candidate for president was former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson, in whose office I started the militias. I worked with Gary and rode with Gary. Well, me on the Harley, him on his bicycle. You know, good man, but you never even heard about him. Most Americans didn't know he was running because of the control of the media, the legacy of William Randolph Hearst, who was responsible for demonizing marijuana and part of their mind control of the American people. And I tell people, man, they don't call television programming for nothing. This is what they do, and this is what's being done to you and your children. I mean, even the cartoons are setting your children up to become gay, to emasculate them, and to allow them to be controlled. The education system is indoctrination. It isn't education.
Of course, we see the same thing in Canada. I mean, all people have to do is study the core program in the United States of America, and it says it all. I mean, the biggest mistake people ever let happen was the American government taking over the schools. Schools have to be in control of parents.
Well, let me see.
When that happens, you'll see the changes.
Let me see here. I have a little booklet here in front of me that gives you a summary of the Communist Manifesto. Abolition of private property, number 1. Heavy progressive income tax, number 2. Number 3, abolition of all rights of inheritance. Number 4, confiscation of property of all immigrants and rebels. Number 5, central bank. Government control of communications and transportation. Government ownership of factories and agriculture, government control of labor, and number 9, and I love this, corporate farms and regional planning. Can you say Agenda 21? Can you say Monsanto? And of course, number 10, government control of education.
Right, you start them at the bottom.
Yep.
You give me your children, Clayton, I'll have your country. Simple as that.
That's right.
And it's so true in this society.
Now,
I mean, yeah, you talked everything you said, Clayton. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, people really got to sit and look at the cartoons that are coming into the house now. What's in those cartoons? I sat down and watched a couple of them one day here. I still have a TV in my house. I don't turn it on a lot. I try not to watch it very much at all because it is indoctrination. I still like to watch my hockey games. But I turned on some children's cartoons here and I studied them for a while. Wow. You know, that's not right. This is not right. Well, it's right in their faces, guys, and it's starting at a very young age. You know, the other day I was over at my buddy's house, and he had his 2 6-year-old kids were playing with these iPods, right? And they were sitting there on the couch, and I kind of walked over and I looked at the game. So, of course, they were playing Mummies Kill Zombies or Zombies Kill Aliens or whatever. But, of course, you know, at 6 years old, what were we indoctrinating into their mind? violence, murder, sex, rape. It starts at a very young age, just like Hitler said, you give me your youth, I will have your country. And that's what we see happening right now, please, right through the team.
How many murders do our children witness every day on the television? How much stuff? How much of this crime dramas, these police shows? They're exposing our children to violence and God knows what else. Homosexuality, Brokeback Mountain. My God.
Come on, it's all an attack on morality, Clayton. Come on. I mean, if people can't see this and it isn't a concern, then they're really got their heads in the sand, because children now don't have a chance to actually build a moral fiber in their life. You know, when I was growing up, Clayton, and you're basically the same age as I am, I believe. You know, the programming coming across TV was, you know, at that point still fairly wholesome in a lot of aspects. We had shows like Bonanza and Lassie and, you know, The Village Hobo and Little House on the Prairie, and these were all family-based, good value shows still at that point. And then all of a sudden we've seen the changes in society, and what we see now on TV is the exact opposite. We see everything that was I considered bad, what I based my moral fiber on, growing up on, is now demonized, and everything that I would consider absolutely barbaric and satanic when I was growing up is now on TV. A complete flip-flop of society. We've got to realize that our youth are under attack, that these are going to be the leaders of our country in the future. And if you're instilling this kind of a mindset, and of course, you know, Clayton, when children are 6 years old, they're most susceptible to conditioning of the brain. When you put this into their minds at a very young age, what kind of citizens are going to be running our country? These are questions we have to ask ourselves, as far as I'm concerned, Clayton. And it's widespread. Oh man, Clayton, I don't know if you're aware of the new sex education program being implemented in Ontario. This program, believe it or not, buddy, listen to this. Catherine Wynne hired or put in charge a gentleman that is currently up on 4 sexual assault charges on children, was the gentleman that the Premier of Ontario, in her wisdom, appointed to lay down the guidelines for the new sex education program in Ontario schools. Well, think about that for a second.
That's incredible. How can the people of Canada sit back and watch something like that? But the same thing is happening here. I'm not pointing the finger at Canadians, and I apologize in advance everything I said about Canadians while I was waiting for you to call in.
I didn't hear it, so I can't say.
It's up on YouTube, but I wasn't too hard on you. I just generalized Canadians in general, not calling in on the correct times.
Well, you know what, honestly, Clayton, every morning I was up, actually, I knew the show was at 7, and I was trying to get back. I was 7 minutes late. I actually have to take my dogs out for their run in the morning. So I confess, I went and did a quick run with the dogs, and I was shooting for 7 o'clock, but I was 7 minutes late, so please forgive me. I try and be punctual.
It's all right. It worked out. You're a great guest, and you know, I'd love to be back on your network and your shows. You know, tell Rick and Annie to book me for a show anytime.
I would like to get you back on, Clayton, because I really enjoy my talks with you, my friend. We've done quite a few shows, and we're definitely on the same page in about 99% of what we think. So, anytime I can do a show with you, I'm glad to join you.
It's so important for us to work together. If we don't work together, folks, we'll hang alone. And I'm going to, I want to play something. I had something lined up here today, and I'm going to play that at this point. We're a half hour. We got 30 minutes left, and it's what happened to Germany. Now, there's a film out, and I think I've got links up on my side. If I don't, I'll have it on later today, about Hellstorm, the rape of Germany. Now, this, what happened in the World War II, Stalin murdered how many millions of white Christian Russians? Tens of millions. Tens of millions. And the same thing happened to the Chinese. They murdered all these Chinese, millions and millions of Chinese. And they tried to do that with Germany. 3 communist countries ganged up on Germany, and the media demonized the German people and demonized Hitler. May not have been a great guy, may not have been a good guy, but the Germans loved him, and he tried to stand against the communists. He tried to prevent what happened to the Russians from happening to the Germans, in my opinion here. And what happened to the Germans when they tried to resist? This Red Army was sent in, and they started killing and raping Germans, German women. It's, let me get this for you, Barry, here. Let me find that. I've got a link here for this show, and actually you can put this show up. You can save it for when you go to Blog Talk. You could save it as a to your default player and play this whole show. I think it's important. And so let me get you that link here in just a second here. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I'll get it. I'll play it on Shake and Wick for us.
Okay, it's under your name. If you right-click, go to freeamerican.com, and on the left side is the guest, upcoming guest, and the link for the show is right under your name, both yesterday and today, and both shows were great. They'll be up on YouTube also. And let me see here. Okay, yeah, they'll come up in just a second here, and I'll give it to you on Skype.
Okay.
But what was done to the Germans by the Soviets, and again, I'm not going to say Russians, because the Russian people, the Tsar was our friend. They murdered the Tsar and installed communism. That was financed by New York bankers like Jacob Schiff. And let me just play a little link on this.
The terror first swept in from the east. Rumors, hints, terrible harbingers of what might be expected should the Soviet Union overrun Germany were nothing new. Most Germans, however, remained hopeful. Such notions of Asiatic hordes, many felt, were merely the government's attempt to harden their will to resist. Thus it was that on the night of October 20th, 1944, as the village of Nemmersdorf and other Prussian communities nearest the front slept in imagined security, the unthinkable occurred. After punching a hole through the German line, the Red Army suddenly burst into the Reich and swarmed over the countryside. After several days of desperate fighting, the German Wehrmacht regrouped, launched a furious counterattack, and eventually drove the Red Army back across the border. What German troops found upon reclaiming the lost ground, however, was staggering. It was at Nemmersdorf where stunned soldiers first viewed hell on earth. Along the roads, fleeing refugees had been overtaken by the communists. The people were pulled from their carts, raped, then murdered on the spot.
In the farmyard further down the road stood a cart to which 4 naked women were nailed through their hands in a cruciform position. Beyond stood a barn, and to each of its 2 doors a naked woman was nailed through the hands in a crucified posture. In the dwellings we found a total of 72 women, including children, and 1 old man, 74, all dead, all murdered in a bestial manner, except only a few who had bullet holes in their necks. Some babies had their heads bashed in. In one room we found a woman, 84 years old, sitting on a sofa, half of whose head had been sheared off with an axe or a spade.
Now, you don't hear about this, and you can go to Google and do Hellstorm, the rape of Germany, and learn what they did. The Germans were demonized over here, but it was the Soviets working for Stalin, working for Jacob Schiff. As Rabbi Weiss said, some call it communism, I call it Judaism for the masses. And you need to learn why Hitler was so demonized, why countries, the world was organized by the Jews who declared war on the German people. And they murdered and raped Germans. And I'm kind of sensitive about that, Barry, because my whole family came from Germany over 100 years ago. Again, they divided and conquered. They divided us. They divided us, and the atrocities that these communists inflicted on the German people and murdered tens of millions of Russians, kulaks, anyone that might resist, were murdered by the Soviets and put in these camps, and they built the camps here. The FEMA camps are here. Now, I'm afraid that this is exactly what they have planned for the Americans, and they have allowed the illegals to flood in here. How many of our women and children have the illegal aliens in this country murdered and raped and killed? How many?
We don't know, but you know what you're saying about the FEMA camps, Clayton. If you go to the government websites right now, you'll find out that they're up mad, that they're ready for people. Wait a second, what's going on here? That's
we're just doing that for the homeless. Some of the states have made it illegal to be homeless.
Yeah.
Oh, you're homeless? Oh, you gotta go to a FEMA camp.
Something stinks about that really bad. How many they built in the States now? Clayton, what's the exact number? I think it's around 680. Am I correct?
Yes.
680 camps built by your tax dollars. What are they using them for? They look like concentration camps to me, everyone that I've seen and studied. Come on, folks. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out they built them for a reason. They're manning them for a reason. And you know what? It all seems to tie in with J.K. Hill. It's just what a coincidence, Clayton. I just cannot believe all the coincidences I'm seeing. A lot about it is really, I'm being sarcastic right now. That's the one thing about Jade Helm, like I said earlier, Clayton, that really kind of disturbs me is all the other activities that seem to be focusing around that particular time. And like we said yesterday, it was the time for them to go hot on the American people. The thing that really bothers me, Clayton, is, you know, and I know, we talked about this briefly yesterday, the amount of underground cities and roads have been built under the United States of America. Well, you know, like I said yesterday, Clayton, if they were going to go hot on the American people, what is sitting in those bunkers right now waiting? A lot of questions that need to be answered in my world.
They are setting us up for this, and this is exactly what I started reporting on 20 years ago. What I told you 20 years ago, yesterday, I read some of the articles about 9/11, about Building Number 7, that I put into my Free American magazine, March 2004. I was right on then, and 3 months later, they tried to kill me and managed to destroy the Free American magazine. They failed to kill me, but they destroyed the Free American magazine, which was on the shelves at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million, and my motorcycle magazine, which I debuted in this issue called Arizona's Thunder Riders. When the accident failed to kill me, Barry, two guys in blue pinstripe suits showed up. Hi, Clay. How you doing? You been hallucinating, Clay? And I had been, but I hadn't told anybody. Well, you can thank us for that. Yeah, who are you? We're CIA. Yeah, what are you doing in this country, and why are you messing with me? We don't like you publishing that motorcycle magazine. The reason they didn't like that is because my sons had kept the motorcycle magazine going, so I still had a source of income. That magazine was worth $1 million, and I sold half of it for $500,000, which lasted 3 days, and then somehow the CEO, I walked into my new offices, and the CEO's one shaking, I can't go through with the deal, Clay. I can't go through with the deal. They're threatening to impeach me from my own company. The stock's dropping like a rock. I can't go through with it. They're afraid of the information, and that's why what you're doing, Mary, up in Canada, you're providing the news. This is why I started the Free American in the first place, because the media, mainstream media, the Zionist-controlled media, wanted you to believe that we had to go in and kill all those children at Waco to save them from a child molester. Come on, guys.
Exactly. Burn them to death. Yeah, that's the answer.
That'll solve child molestation. And then, of course, they killed 22 children on the same day 1 year later. That was Oklahoma City. That was the Murrah building. And they tried to blame that on the militia. Timothy McVeigh was a militia. He was U.S. Army. I published his so-called death certificate. He's probably sitting down in Cuba having a cigar with Manuel Noriega or somebody. You know, I don't even think he is dead. But this is all part of the demonization. They don't want you working together, and I recommend that you be very careful. Since May of 2004, I got 2 rules for living. Everybody in a four-wheeler is trying to kill me, and every phone I use is tapped. So.
Yeah, you know, I know Clayton, buddy. Believe me, I know they're listening to my conversations. I'm probably on one of their top of their lists right now of people they want to get rid of if and when things go south. But you know, at this point in my life, they're not going to shut me up. They're going to have to put a bullet in my head to shut me up, because in my life right now, there's nothing more important than trying to share knowledge with people. And of course, under the new bill C-51 in Canada, I can actually be classified as a terrorist now. So I've never been a terrorist before, but I guess I could be now under the new classifications of this barbaric act being trying to ram through Canadian Parliament. 78% of Canadians were against it, yet the government didn't listen to that at all. And just believe me, is riling a lot of Canadians. a lot of Canadians are starting to see Kyle Harper for what he is. We're going to see these attacks escalate, and I'm expecting knocks on the door one of these days, Clayton. I really am. But you know what? Like I said, at this point, they're going to have to kill me to shut me up. So when that day comes, I'll see you on the other side, brother.
Well, this is what they do. I mean, I've had people show up at my guest door. I publish my list of my guests. Why are you going on the Clay Douglas show? Why are you going on there? Well, why not? Why shouldn't I? I've known Clay for years. Why shouldn't I go there? Well, we think he's seditious. We think he's seditious. No, I'm not seditious. I took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I'm doing that right now. No expiration date on that oath. So I feel the same way, Barry. I do this to introduce people that have answers, and I urge people to contact you. How do they do that?
Well, I'm on Facebook, of course. Still using their weapon against them. I do a show on Shake and Wake Radio at 3 p.m. Pacific called The Big Puzzle. And, of course, I called it that because that's what we're in right now is a big puzzle, and it seems very fitting. And I did say the other day, Clayton, I'm having a bit of a life change right now, and I'm going to go out and harvest mushrooms here for about a month, so I'll kind of be in and out of connection with the world for a month, and then I'll be back. But I will try and jump in on the internet once in a while. I'm about an hour from the nearest Wi-Fi connection that I can get to. So I'm kind of disappearing for a little bit here just to recharge my batteries and get ready for the onslaught I see coming. That's what I see coming. Period.
All right. If you have any links, websites or your radio show for Rick and Annie or anybody else, send those to me via Skype, and I'll post them up under the shows on both YouTube, Facebook, Free American 69, and myfreeamerican.com website.
Thank you. I do have a couple videos on YouTube under the Big Puzzle Barry Prince. I have one there I did with Rick Simpson and Terry Joyce, Trillium of Joyce. It was an incredible show. You guys might want to listen to that one sometime. Rick really opened up on that one. And I also did one with Dr. David Bruce Allen, who is one of the leaders right now in researching the endocannabinoid system in the human body. I did a 2-hour interview with Tim Clayton. That's another one that was a very, very good show. Basically, I just sat back and let the doctor talk about the research he's doing. So a couple that you might want to look at.
All right, sir.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure being here today, Jack. I really enjoyed talking with you, my friend. We have to do this a little bit more.
All right, we'll do that anytime. I'm always available. Thank you, Barry Prince. All right, a couple of more things here. Let's review this hellstorm. This is a preview.
Who had tried to protect their wives, daughters, and granddaughters were themselves knocked down, then sawed in half. 50 French POWs and Polish workers who had instinctively stepped in to protect the people were castrated and killed. Staggered by the enormity of the crime, German authorities requested that neutral observers from Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland view the sickening carnage close up. When the visitors filed their reports, however, and when word finally reached the outside world, there was only silence. By the winter of 1944, the vicious propaganda war waged against Germany had been won. By that late stage of the conflict, the war of words had reached such evil extremes that few individuals beyond the Reich's borders were concerned about brain German babies or crucified German women. By the final months of the war, the enemy to be destroyed was not merely Adolf Hitler, the Nazi Party, or even the soldiers in the field. By the final months of the war, the aim of the approaching Allies was nothing less than the utter extinction of the German nation. Every man, every woman, every child. Fueling the flames of hate was the Jewish propagandist Ilya Ehrenberg. One of the most influential men in the Soviet Union, Ehrenberg made sure his message of evil reached every soldier in the Red Army by ordering that leaflets be dropped from airplanes onto the front lines.
Kill them all.
Men, old men, children, and the women, after you have amused yourself with them. Kill. Nothing in Germany is guiltless, neither the living nor the yet unborn. Break the racial pride of the German women. Take her as your legitimate booty. Kill, you brave soldiers of the victorious Soviet army.
Soon, as the Red Army forced the Wehrmacht back in the east, millions of German civilians suffered the same ghastly fate as the victims of Nemmersdorf. Although first encounters with Soviet shock troops were truly traumatic, it was the second wave of soldiers who delivered hell on earth. In numerous instances, before Russian troops pushed on, they turned to the helpless civilians and warned,
"The Mongols are coming. Very bad men. You go quick, go quick."
Terrified by the news, many Germans did attempt to flee. Most, however, found themselves trapped. Other than destroy liquor and hide young girls, most could only watch the clock and pray that their worst fears were unfounded. After a wait of sometimes days, but normally only hours, the dreaded second wave arrived. Composed largely of Mongols and other Asians, as well as convicts, these men who formed the second wave of troops were regarded, even by their own comrades, as utterly merciless. This group was also joined by the communist commissars, the fanatical political officers composed almost exclusively of Jews, who acted as the more than willing orchestrators of the horrors which befell the German people. Of all the methods used to express its hate, the Red Army said it best with rape.
And when the first Russians came, the combat troops, they came in and wanted to see everything. Asked about weapons and soldiers, looked at everything closely, didn't find anything, and were very friendly, and then just left. And then the next lot arrived. The next one took me outside straight away. My mother wanted to throw herself in front of me, but she was pushed back. And then he took me upstairs, and as I tried to defend myself, he showed me his gun. And then, when I came back down, I was well shocked, but I was just happy that I was still alive. They said, "Woman, come." They said it in German. Frau, komm, in German. We were the prize. It was always like that.
From 8 to 80, healthy or ill, indoors or out, in fields, on sidewalks, against walls, the defilement, torture, and murder of German women continued unabated. Merely because a female had been raped once was no guarantee she would not be assaulted again and again and again.
It was so terrible. The word terrible is not even enough to describe it. They raped all the time. I heard shouting and screaming, and then they became quiet. They had no more strength left. There were cases when they were raped to death. They strangled them. They were like wild animals.
The women of Germany not only had to endure this onslaught of rape, torture, and murder, but also the humiliation of having it witnessed by friends and family. It was nothing to see a long line of laughing men on one street, another line of men on another street, and so on, in broad daylight, all awaiting their turn on the dying victims. When even violated corpses could no longer be of use, sticks, iron bars, and telephone receivers were commonly rammed up their vaginas. Jewish commissars had a special desire to defile the churches of Germany. Soon after the fall of Danzig, 100 desperate females pleaded with an officer for protection. The Soviet pointed to a Catholic cathedral. After the women were safely inside, The officer yelled to his men, pointed to the church, and with bells ringing and organ pipes roaring, the horror continued all night. Some women and girls inside, some as young as 8 years old, were raped more than 30 times. Little boys who tried to shield their mothers were shot. When Soviet soldiers captured the city of Neustadt in February 1945, they discovered several large camps of the Women's Reich Labor Service, an organization composed mostly of girls who worked on various projects, from nursing to street repair. After recapturing the area, the German soldiers were horrified by what had happened to the 2,500 females.
We had never seen anything like it. Utterly and unbelievably monstrous. Naked, dead women lay in many of the rooms. Swastikas had been cut into their abdomens. In some, the intestines bulged out. Breasts were cut up. Faces beaten to a pulp and swollen puffy. Others had been tied to the furniture by their hands and feet and massacred. A broomstick protruded from the vagina of one, a besom from that of another. Some mothers had to witness how their 10 and 12-year-old daughters were raped by some 20 men. The daughters in turn saw their mothers being raped, even their grandmothers. Women who tried to resist were brutally tortured to death. There was no mercy. The women we liberated were in a state almost impossible to describe. Their faces had a confused, vacant look. Some were beyond speaking to, ran up and down and moaned the same sentences over and over again. Having seen the consequences of these bestial atrocities, we were terribly agitated and determined to fight. We knew the war was past inning, but it was our obligation and sacred duty to fight to the very last bullet.
Because of close-quarter street fighting, German troops were often unwilling spectators to the horror taking place just beyond. During lulls in the almost constant din of battle, shocked soldiers heard jazz and polka music blaring behind them in the German zone as citizens sought one last fling, while across the street, the screams of rape victims in the Russian zone. Millions massacred, millions raped, millions already enslaved. But this was nothing. Worse was to come.
All right. See this at Free American 69 on Facebook. Get this show with Barry Prince. Share it with your friends. I am Clay Douglas. FreeAmerican.com. Shop.FreeAmerican.com. God bless you all. Stay safe. Don't overreact. Jade Helm is an exercise now. Let's keep it that way and use it as a way to reach our soldiers with the truth. God bless you all. Thanks.